Here we are once again with a Chef Knives to Go Quick Look product review. I'm Steve Gamache, and what we have is the Yoshimitsu Fugen Shitogami or white number 1 Kiritsuke 240mm knife. So this knife has a 3-layer construction. The hardcore center cutting edge steel is Shitogami or white paper number 1 reactive high carbon steel. Heat treats around 61 Rockwell in that core steel. And on either side of that core steel you've got a soft iron reactive cladding. So both the cladding and the core are reactive, so there's no stainless on here at all. So you'll have to make sure to keep this dry and not let it sit wet. The cladding does have a Kiritsuke or blacksmith protective finish on it, and then you can also, when you get it in person, you'll see it does have a looks like a food safe lacquer finish on the blade as well. It's a very interesting blade in that it's a traditional Kiritsuke style shape, but it's a double bevel, so it's ambidextrous. It's not a single bevel type design that's either left hand or right hand oriented. The weight and dimensions will vary just a little bit from knife to knife, but this particular one is 136 grams or 4.8 ounces. The edge length is 242 millimeters or 9.5 inches, and that's from the tip to the back of the heel, the chin right here. And you can also see they've got an interesting shape where they kind of forward angle the choil, the back of the blade, for interesting, kind of a more aggressive, it kind of mimics the front a little bit with the reverse sword tip here. The overall length is about 15 inches on the nose with this handle. And then this one I measured about 3.4 millimeters coming out of the handle as far as the spine thickness, and then halfway down the blade I measured about 2.7, and then it kind of maintains that thickness as this style of blade. And you can see the reverse sword tip turn the corner there. And then it really only thins out with the grind, but that's kind of characteristic of this style. You can see the choil shot here. Again, it's a double bevel, so feels fairly 50-50 on the grind to it. Comes down towards the edge. Blade height is about 37 millimeters at the heel, and a fairly thin neck, so you got some pretty good clearance there. You know, different types of grips depending on how you're going to use this knife. The handle is very light. It's an oval hoe wood or magnolia wood with a plastic resin ferrule that's a collar that slides over. There's usually a little step there between the wood and the plastic, in this case no exception. It's a thin handle, so it's about 66 millimeters in circumference right here, or 2.6 inches, and that kind of fits the aesthetic and the handling of the blade. Being very light and the blade having a little bit of mass to it, especially up front, you can see the balance point is pretty far forward. This type of knife, it doesn't matter quite so much because you're going to do a lot of slicing with it typically, so you want a little bit of that weight in the blade itself to kind of be forward. The knife itself was straight, pretty clean looking grinds. It's fairly stiff throughout for this style of blade. It's, again, traditional Kiritsuke style shape, but double bevel, so it's cool. Just something very different if you're a lefty especially. This might be something up your alley. The out-of-the-box edge was okay. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. It really just wasn't that sharp. So, but being Shitogami number 1, you could get this stinking sharp if you do your part. It'll get very sharp very easily and will sharpen up exceptionally well. So it's just excellent, excellent steel. The fit and finish on this, we'll get our beauty shot. So the fit and finish on this has some refinement and then some kind of just real character to it. The spine, they relieve the corners of the spine a fair amount with some kind of, seems like some file work on it. And they've relieved the edges of the choil here into the neck as well. And that's pretty clean. The 210 had a kind of an extra piece of metal kind of tacked on back here that needed to be cleaned up. This one's pretty clean on it. So definitely pretty comfortable right out of the box depending on how you want to hold it. Interesting the way this choil angles forward to kind of echo the, again, the tip. We talked about that. What else? Let's look at it on the cutting board. No, actually, let me give you a close-up of it. Sorry, I need to do that. So let's kind of close-up of the finish on it. So it's a fairly smooth Kiritsuke finish. Again, this has, looks like lacquer on it. But it's got a little bit of texture to it, definitely a lot of handmade character. You've got some embossed kanji, some Preston kanji on the left side of the blade as you'd be holding it. So this knife definitely has a lot of character to it. Got good bones though, nice and straight. Here's the right side of the blade. On the board, it's going to be a flat profile as per this style of knife. But here's what it looks like on the board. Again, it's just pretty flat because this is generally a kind of a slicing type knife. So tip draw very nicely well if you wanted to do that. But here's the profile on it. So if you're looking for something, fairly inexpensive and a way to get into this style of knife, if you don't want to go full single bevel, especially if you're a lefty, this could be a really interesting type of slicing knife for you if you wanted to go that route. So pretty cool package. So this is the Yoshimitsu Fugen Shidogami or white number 1 Kiritsuke double bevel Kiritsuke 240 millimeter knife.